Welcome to Forbes. My name is Cat Oriel. Today I'm here with Justina Nixon-Saintil, IBM's Chief Impact Officer. Justina, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Kat. Thank you for having me.
For those that might be unfamiliar with your background, can you tell me about yourself, what you do, and how you got to be where you are today?
Sure. I'm the Chief Impact Officer at IBM, which means I lead our global corporate social responsibility efforts and also our environmental, social, and corporate governance strategy and reporting as well. I've had a pretty interesting path to get here. First of all, just going a little bit in my background, I'm an immigrant who came from a very small island called Dominica, came to United States close to around age 9. And my mother was an educator. She's recently retired, but she was definitely someone who taught in some of the most underserved areas in New York. And she really promoted, right, that education is our path out of poverty. So definitely have a strong background in the education space. And I moved on and, went to attain an engineering degree, one of the only Black females to graduate from mechanical engineering degree at the time from the University of Buffalo. And I've been in the technology field ever since. And my last, 10 to 15 years have been very focused on how do you use technology, right, and expertise to really make a difference for underserved communities. How do you make sure you're giving them access to the right opportunities so that they can be successful in the workforce and support themselves and their families? So that has been my focus, with the work that I'm doing at IBM. And even when I was an engineer focusing on societal challenges, that's one of the things that I've been very focused on.
And for those that might also not be familiar, what is IBM?
So IBM is a technology company, and we are an AI, artificial intelligence, and hybrid cloud company. We have a very strong focus on sustainability. And in fact, we have commitments that we have made to be net zero by 2030. And also we provide sustainability solutions to clients as well. But we are very focused on corporate responsibility overall. And how can we invest in our communities to make sure that we are building capacity and talent across the globe?
How are you working to get underrepresented communities into the tech field? And why do you believe it is so important to diversify the field?
Yeah, so I believe that there's a lot of untapped talent out there. There are people who have the right skills, the right abilities, and they need access to resources to upskill themselves and connect them to the right jobs. So we are very focused on how do you bring underrepresented communities into the fold? How do you make sure you provide them with the training that they need and the credentials as well, recognized credentials in the industry so that they can move into a meaningful job? And all industries are focused on this right now. This is the biggest conversation across multiple areas, whether you're in the tech industry, retail, manufacturing. This is an area where STEM skills are needed, and that's our focus. Now, underrepresented groups have been historically left out of some of these high-paying, meaningful jobs. If you even look at my background, I'm an engineer, right? I graduated from the University of Buffalo, and becoming an engineer really opened doors for me. But otherwise, it would have been very challenging and very difficult. So I had a lot of opportunity along the way, which has helped alongside my career. I think there are a lot of people who don't have access to these resources. And by providing those resources to them and making it freely available, we are giving a lot of people a chance at these meaningful jobs.
Going back to your background, what obstacles did you face and how were you able to overcome those?
There were many obstacles. I mean, just attending a university focused on engineering, where a lot of my peers, a lot of the other students had role models. They had a lot of, people that were influential in their lives. They were in high schools where they had advanced math and science courses. So it was very challenging once I, attended university to move through the engineering coursework. But I was very determined to do that. And I had a lot of mentors and support along the way. And again, by obtaining an engineering degree, it really opened many doors. And then I was able to move through product development, to marketing, and eventually into corporate social responsibility.
Words like ESG and CSR kind of get thrown around a lot, with a lot of people not really understanding what that means. So can you help explain to me what exactly those initiatives are?
Yeah, absolutely. So corporate social responsibility is really what are the initiatives that your company is taking to really support your communities, places where you work and live. So an example of this is the efforts we have in education. We made a commitment to skill 30 million people by 2030. So that means we are bringing training, we are bringing credentials, we are providing free access to our platforms, to those who are very underrepresented in the tech field and those communities that are very vulnerable. So that's an example of a corporate social responsibility initiative. We're doing the same thing in the sustainability space. So we are working with nonprofit partners all across the globe to create initiatives that support those communities that are most impacted by climate change. And our IBMers are really big part of our initiatives, because our IBMers partner with nonprofit organizations to support communities. They provide volunteerism, they provide mentorship, they provide support to our communities as well. So those are just some examples of our corporate social responsibility programs. The environmental, social, and corporate governance space is really around how do you measure and evaluate your progress as a company under the environmental pillar, the social area, and governance. And actually last year, IBM launched a strategic framework that really outlines 3 main areas that we focus on under ESG. That's under the environmental pillar, equitable pillar, and the ethical pillar. And under the equitable pillar is where a lot of our corporate social responsibility initiatives sit. But we're also doing a lot of work under the environmental space and also under the ethical space as well, when you look at our governance and our tech ethics and other initiatives that we are really demonstrating progress against.
It seems like nowadays ESG has become a bit controversial and divisive, especially with conservative lawmakers actively working to block ESG strategies. Do you encounter that, and does that affect your work?
So I think ESG is extremely important for corporations, for governments as well. No one entity can do it alone. You need the public-private partnerships, but you also see that CEOs and other leaders in corporations are prioritizing ESG because it's important for their clients, it's important for employees, and it's important for investors as well.
Switching topics now, this year you were at COP27 and made a major announcement. Please tell me about that.
Yeah, COP27 was an amazing experience, right? It was very focused on not just the commitments that corporations and governments were making, but what's the action, right? How do we demonstrate that there are actions that are being taken, and how you move from ambition to actual demonstrating action? So we were very excited at COP to launch a cohort of organizations that are going to focus on delivering clean energy solutions to some of the most vulnerable communities across the globe. So we'll be working with a number of different communities to provide access to pricing of clean energy solutions, delivery of clean energy solutions. And the outcome that we want here is that these communities understand what their options are and that they can actually start getting access to some of those solutions that could really help them, especially as they are impacted by climate change. So we were very excited about making that announcement at COP, and we have a number of organizations that we are working with, from the United Nations Development Program to Environment Without Borders, a lot of different organizations that are leading the charge with us and getting access to our expertise and our solutions to really make a difference in those communities. We also use that opportunity to highlight some of the advancements we've made with one of our first cohorts that were brought into the program around sustainable agriculture. So we have a number of organizations that are working on providing environmental data, weather data, soil analysis to farmers across the globe. And we are starting to see that those programs are scaling and reaching thousands of farmers in different communities. We're helping them increase pricing, we're helping them make decisions on where to plant, and we're helping them to really look at water quality and soil quality to make decisions about farming. So we're very excited about that work as well, and we're proud to demonstrate those outcomes.
What more would you like to see private companies, IBM and others, and organizations do to help fight against climate change and accelerate towards clean energy?
Yes, I think some of the work that we're doing is, I believe, a really great opportunity for companies to partner with us. So first of all, we are always looking for nonprofit organizations and governments to work with us on these solutions. In fact, we're going to launch an RFP in March looking for nonprofit organizations to come and partner with us to launch the next cohort that's focused on mitigating the effects of climate change. I think overall, corporations have to continue what they're doing. I think there's a significant percentage of large companies that now have made net zero commitments. They're very focused on how do they reduce emissions in their operations. So I think that is very positive. And I think there are a lot of organizations that are also focused on the just transition. How do we make sure that as we create products, as we look at what's happening with climate, we are not leaving vulnerable communities behind? So I think corporations such as IBM that are focused on both what are we doing from our own operations, but also how do we make sure that we are supporting vulnerable communities? Those are the corporations that will be the most successful.
Well, that's the end of my questions, Justina. Is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you would like to add?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is access to opportunity, whether you are in an area where there's environmental threats, whether you are someone who needs to be skilled and upskilled and being prepared for the green economy, whether you are someone who are just looking for new opportunities to take care of yourself and your family. I think the biggest thing that we can do as a corporate entity is provide access to opportunity. And I'm really proud that I have a great team, and this is something that IBM is very focused on. So I'm proud of the work that we've done in this space.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
All right, thank you for having me.